Welcome to Marketing Uncensored, where Collin and I are both angry.
The secret is we're always angry, Sam.
All right, so the topic du jour, agency-client relationships. What are the agency red flags? What are the client red flags? And how do you avoid getting fucked?
Absolutely. Great topic, important topic, one that we see kind of on Twitter here and there, mostly from the brand side, bitching about agencies, but agencies get bad clients too. Brands make bad clients sometimes. So I think it's overall a good topic, a fun topic. Certainly not one that's going to cause agita or cursing. It'll just be
No,
very level-headed. No one's going to get pissy on Twitter. It's going to be great.
that's perfect. That's 100% how I think this is going to start because obviously we're both biased, but we both also do own brands. So we both also do we've seen both sides of this equation.
Correct.
And agencies do get a bad rap, and some agencies flat out suck. And they deserve their bad rap. But some clients fucking suck.
Yes.
Some
And
brands are not built to work with agencies.
and that is true. And some people just don't know how to work with agencies or have expectations that are not realistic. I literally had a discovery call this week where I wrote in my notes, and I want a fucking pony, right? Like that showed up in my sales notes. We're not going to be working with the and I want a fucking pony client, but
Correct.
it is a relationship unlike like any other relationship. It takes both sides, sometimes not equal.
100%. I mean, I think we probably have pretty similar processes, but it is pretty apparent once you do a few discovery calls that there are some clients whose ideas of what their business is capable of doing and what any reasonable basis in reality is capable of are on different planets.
Yes.
And it's really annoying.
Yeah. It's and that's just the ones that are delusional. Those aren't the ones that are like actively shitty.
Militant.
Yeah.
So let's start here. Where does it make sense to hire an agency? What type of brands get value? Where do agencies bring value? Because I think once you understand that, it's pretty easy to figure out where shitty clients happen and where shitty relationships happen.
So, truthfully, I think agencies can bring value in most scenarios. There are cases where they're just too small, right? If you're spending
Huh.
$10,000 a month, I'd say really like under 50, like yeah, like maybe find a good freelancer for specific, and I mean like very specific things, right? But like
Mm-hmm.
all the way up to you know publicly traded companies. I mean, agencies are an integral part of that growth stack and whatever else. I mean, there's lots of agencies for
Right.
lots of things because you know the flexibility that agencies offer and the value proposition that agencies offer is like very compelling for any brand that knows how to vet an agency and work with an agency. I just think it's pretty simple math. And I
Yeah.
feel like you probably know the math better than anybody else. Because I see you
I
post
mean,
about it, and I'm like, yep, that's exactly right.
yeah. When I think about it, when I talk to people about it, I'm usually in the same ballpark. It's for a smaller brand, your choice is essentially you are going to try to hire somebody who is a Jack or Jill of all trades because we have to have, Jack and Jill these fucking days. But okay, right? And they will know maybe something about paid media. They will know maybe something about email. They will know maybe something about content, and they will be able to fiddle around in Canva enough to make something that's not completely hideous. Or you can take that same, assuming a mid-level marketer makes 85 to 90K a year as a business, realistically on an 80K salary, you're into that person for 100, a 90K, you're in for a buck 10, buck 15.
15 to
So
20% above whatever the
yeah,
salary is.
yeah,
Easy.
fringe benefits, bullshit, onboarding, and that's exclusive of
Employer
recruiter
side
costs.
payroll costs.
100%, 100%. I mean, health insurance, your half of FICA, your 401k if you offer that, your help, any other supplemental insurance you offer, any work perks you offer, and that leaves aside the recruiter cost if you had to hire that person via a recruiter, where that's another 25% of their first year salary.
Or just the time you spent on it. Like,
Correct. Yeah, I mean, we get between a 100 and 200 applicants for every hire we make. That's real time to sort through those resumes. It's real time to do those interviews and to prep for those interviews and to bring your senior level talent to those interviews. It's real expensive.
we're fully remote, so it's north of 600 for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go. But taking that aside, right? Call it $10,000 a month is what you are paying to this person who is a Jack or Jill of all trades and who really is master of none. But for that same price, or even maybe even less, you get an agency who has a skilled copywriter on staff. They have a graphic designer on staff. They have a web developer on staff. They've got a paid media person who can run your ad accounts. They've got an email person or a landing page person who can help you actually do the things you want and who are experts at it. So yes, you will get less total time, but the time that you're getting is being spent by experts who actually know what the hell they're doing, not some Tweedledee who doesn't understand and is going to take 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 times longer to do it and probably cock it up anyway.
It's fractional rental of expertise, right?
A
And I
hundred
can use
percent.
my agency as an example. Like for an account that we would be getting, let's say like $10,000 to $15,000 as a retainer, they're getting access to over $500,000 in salary.
Right.
And it's not exclusive access, but beyond just that expertise, right? Like we also have dialed internal processes on like how to
Correct.
develop creative, knowledge and expertise from other clients and tests that we've run elsewhere. And that, $10,000 a month for that mid-level person, that's one mid-level, 3 years of experience, like maybe not so good. And I'll be honest, it is really, really hard to hire marketing expertise. I do it for a
It's
living. Like,
it's miserable. But I think that fundamentally gets to the truth of it, right? You are hiring an ecosystem. You are not hiring a person or an agency. You are hiring an ecosystem, one where you, like you said, internal processes and knowledge, shared expertise across potentially hundreds or at the very least dozens of other client engagements where they can refer back, vetted, pre-approved talent that you know is high quality. And you're getting it in a way that minimizes risk to you, the business.
yes.
Because I don't know if how many people who listen to this have ever tried to fire somebody. It's not fun.
It's expensive too.
It's real expensive. And if you're lucky, you can do that in 3 months. If you are lucky, you can fire somebody in 3 months. From the time you identify, hey, this is a problem, to covering your ass with all of the necessary pips and all the other bullshit that you have to check, to actually going through with it, to dealing with the legal repercussions, phasing that person out, and then you're really at square zero because now you need to bring somebody else into that role or redistribute the work.
And meanwhile, you're firing them for a reason, right? So like your performance is shit. You're still paying them. Like your costs are stacking up. Do you have to hire another person while this person is still here? Like the flexibility with an agency, right? Again, and this is the great thing about consultants in general, is you have a contract that has like a 30-day out in it, and you're like, hey, it's not working out. We're not renewing. And, that's it.
That's it.
You
You're
go
done.
find a new one. Like,
It's
no,
a pretty
no unemployment complaints where you have to go to court and
Right.
fight over it because, it's a bullshit claim or they try to
no
claim
no
harassment.
discrimination or harassment claims, no nonsense, right? What you're getting is you're getting rented expertise, like you said. Pre-vetted, rented expertise in an area that you probably don't have a sufficient level of mastery to adequately assess talent, namely marketing or paid media or analytics or email.
Yeah.
It's
SEO, whatever. It doesn't matter.
right. Yeah. SEO.
Call back to episode 1. Um,
But that's the benefit.
yeah.
It's a pretty straightforward value proposition.
And ancillary costs too, which you don't even need to get into, like the fact that our software stack is, I don't know how many thousands of dollars per month. Like,
It's many. Shout out to Optimizer, who will be sponsoring episode 4.
thanks, Fred.
So, all right, that's the agencies are great if you need expertise in an area and you probably don't want to pay through the teeth for it and you don't want to take the risk, the talent risk, the operational risk, the hiring risk, candidly, the financial risk.
Yes.
So, that brings the next question, which is always the fun question. How do you hire an agency? What are the red flags to look at? Where do brands go wrong in hiring agencies? Then we flip the script. Where do agencies go wrong? What are the red flags on clients?
I'm gonna have so much fun with this. But before we get into this, I just want a little bit of a rant because again, I'm too on Twitter. I see a lot of shit on Twitter. The people who routinely complain about agencies being shit and bad experiences with agencies, there is one common denominator in these bad engagements, and it is you, the person who is hiring them. So you need to look in the mirror and be like, why do I keep hiring shit ass agencies? And we're going to get into it because I know why you guys are hiring shit ass agencies, at least some of the way. And I think the one thing is that unrealistic expectations. And this gets back to my I want a fucking pony conversation that I had with a prospect this week. And only for paid media, so it was Facebook and Google ads. And they're talking about how their overall retention is 6.4%. And like, we want to get that, which is terrible. And I was like, Jesus, that's fucking low. Literally says that in my notes. But like, we want you to get that to 20%. And I was like, that is not what paid media does. Like, that is not where we come in.
No, paid media puts more water in the bucket. It does not fix the bucket.
Correct. And there are so many agencies out there, the bad ones, who are going to tell you, yeah, like double your fucking revenue, no problem. Like 10x ROAS, sure, easy. Like the ones that are more likely to give you crazy numbers and not try to set expectations are the bad ones. I would rather, and you should rather, have one that is going to be super conservative in their projections and estimation, because that means they're actually thinking about it, right? If they're like, look, we'll grow you 20%, right? And like, here's what we think we can do, here's a range of outcomes, and then you have some cowboy come in who's like, oh yeah, double, no problem. Like, I know where I'm putting my money, and it's the person who's a lot more measured and, at the very least is trying to under promise and over deliver, which again, a lot better than the over promise and under deliver, or in a lot of those cases it's just like promise whatever they can to close the deal, do nothing, and
Pray.
then just like walk away in 3 months.
Yeah, there's a lot of those. I think the other thing that I see on these very online chats, the other common denominator is you see these clients that are trying to get the most and minimize their cost.
Yes.
And the thing that I have said on probably more sales calls than I care to think about is a starving agency is a liability, not an asset.
We are businesses and we also have to make money.
Correct. And candidly, as a brand, your goal should never be to squeeze every drop of blood out of the stone. It doesn't make sense. It is not in your best interest. And I know every guru on Twitter is like, oh yeah, minimize your agency, renegotiate your contract, push it down. And yes, I run an agency. Yes, I have an agency. Yes, I do have a vested interest in agencies making money. But here's the thing. If you are squeezing every drop of profit out, I have to make that profit somewhere else. And that profit is going to be made by either under-resourcing your account or churning your account or putting lower cost resources on your account. Because at the end of the day, I have payroll to make and I have risk and overhead to deal with. So if you want top talent, if you want growth, why are you tripping over dollars to pick up dimes?
Absolutely crazy. And I know you and I have talked about this a lot over the years. And like you said, right? Like we're not going to lose money on an account. I'm
No.
just not. Like I'm not in the business of losing money, right?
Yeah, I'm
And
not in the business of charity.
no, and I'm certainly not doing it for some random client, right? And yes, we help clients and we'll, go above and beyond for good clients, but I cannot lose money on a project. Like again, my business is here to
Because,
make money.
right, but I
Welcome
mean,
to capitalism.
right, but I think there's a bigger truth here, which is if I lose money on a client, I am actually asking my good clients, the clients who are good to our team, who are great to work with, who pay us fairly, to subsidize the person who is trying to squeeze us.
Yes.
That's what I'm asking. And that's not fair to the great clients. That's not fair to the team. That's not fair to anyone. So if you're a client and you're sitting here thinking, I'm running an RFP process and I'm going to squeeze every dial, you're thinking about it the wrong way. You're an idiot. You're going to lose.
You should
And
not
I
be
know you're
asking
listening.
yourself, do my agencies make too much money? You should be asking, do they make enough? Like,
Correct.
and this gets to, I think, another great point too, and with great agencies especially, is that we monitor our profit margins. We watch them with clients where we have upside, right, and profit margin. We'll invest resources too. Like if I can spend $20,000 of my own money to help a client unlock another $100,000 a month in revenue because I'm going to get a cut of that, I'll do it, right? Like
100%.
it's in my
best.
interest to do it.
Right. It's the best return on investment that you can make because you have inside knowledge in a limited market. It's for so many reasons, it's a fantastic investment. It's one that we make all the time.
Likewise, we pay for holdout tests for some clients because they need it. We can pay for it. We have upside. I know it's going to unlock upside, right? It's like, great. Now we can
Right.
measure YouTube. Now we can spend $30,000 a day on YouTube. I get a cut of that. Done. Easy. Easy
Let's
math
go.
for me, right?
So, number one, we have the Delulu unrealistic pony. Number two, we have the squeeze you for everything that you have. All right. What's next?
Not having investment in the partnership. An agency partnership is a partnership. It is not a here you go, we'll do nothing, all the work is on you. Like we're less invested in the success of our business than you are in the success of our business. Oh, look, it didn't work. Huh. I wonder why that happens.
100%. Yeah. That is, I think, probably the single biggest cause of failed agency relationships is exactly that. And I think it's a close second with we think marketing fixes our other problems.
Marketing is an amplifier and nothing else.
Correct.
If the underlying thing it's amplifying is shit, the result's going to be greater shit, right? If it's
100%.
great, it's going to be even greater, but it doesn't fix anything.
No. And I think the biggest frustration that I've had with some clients is when we go to them and we say, this offer isn't compelling. This product is actually not doing what you think it does. And the feedback that you're getting from your customers and your lack of leads or your lack of sales isn't because the marketing is wrong. It's because your offer sucks. There are two kinds of clients in the world. There's the first kind of client who hears that feedback and says, okay, let's have a conversation about what we can do as a business to make our offer more attractive, and has that, I don't want to say, inward looking, but they're open to the feedback because fundamentally feedback's a gift, right?
Yes.
And then there's the client that says, no, you just suck at your job or whatever else. And it is the marketing and we're great and we're better than everybody else. We don't have competition. This should be easy to sell. The second kind of client is always looking for new agencies.
The first one has long-term relationships with
Correct.
agencies, and that is another thing that I think does not get enough attention, is that the longer you're partnered with an agency, the better it is because they have all of that institutional knowledge that just cannot be replaced, right? They remember your Black Friday from 2 years ago. They understand the rhythms of the seasonality of your business. They just have more knowledge of how it works
Huh.
than bringing in
Right.
somebody new.
Yeah. And this gets to a point where when I've had these conversations with like some CMOs and they're talking about, okay, yeah, well, we just onboarded another, like our fourth agency in this particular case for this individual I'm thinking of, it was their fourth agency in 46 months. And I was like, okay. And he was like, well, what do you think I should do? And I was like, I think you should stop firing agencies because all you're doing is, if you break that apart, right? It's an extreme example, but it's actually, if you're on Twitter, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Because there are some people that are like, I've had 8 agencies in 3 years. And I'm like,
There's a lot of those on Twitter.
congratulations, you're the problem. Um, but for this guy, I was like, listen, if you assume like you have a relatively complex business, it's a relatively niche area. And candidly, there's no real experts here because your business is uniquely situated in this space. So break this apart. You've had 46 months and you've had 4 agencies, which means conservatively, they've spent between 3 and 4 months each getting to know the basics of your business. Congratulations. You have spent between 12 and 16 months in learning mode.
Yep.
That's not growth mode. That's not optimization. That's not unlocking new channels. That is just them relearning the same lessons the last agency learned when you made the decision to fire them. And then you're wondering why you're not going anywhere. Well, how could you? You are paying over and over again to learn the same lesson. Kind of stupid.
It makes no sense.
But
It's
hey,
and
if you want to light money on fire, I can tell you where to find the matches and the lighter fluid. I just don't have to watch you do it.
that's like like one agency a year, right? And so we get into the e-com space where people are, as you said, I have eight agencies in the last 2 years. And it's like no one ever has understood anything about your business the entire time that you've been hiring and firing agencies.
Correct.
Um,
And I think before we go to the fun side of this, right, there is the last piece of this, which drives me insane, are the brands that want to hold an agency accountable, but not give the agency the resources to succeed.
yes.
And this comes in a lot of forms, and I'm dealing with one right now, so it's top of mind. Feels good, right? But where it's like, okay, we need a certain number of positive outcomes, leads, right? You can't touch the messaging because that comes from the brand team. Can't touch the creative because that comes from the brand team. You can't touch the targeting because the sales team only wants to talk to certain people. You can't touch the landing page because the owner likes it.
So what can you do? You can raise or lower budgets. Like that's
I
it.
was like, so realistically, every lever that I have to direct positive outcomes for you, you are restricting my use of. Like, you don't hire Gordon Ramsay to make you dinner and then order McDonald's. That's what you've done.
He could put it on a plate for you. Like,
But that's it.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing. When you do that to your agency and you say you can't touch the landing page, you can't touch the creative, you can't touch the messaging, every bit of copy needs 19 rounds of review. The fuck are we doing here? Like, if you're hiring an expert, if you're hiring Gordon Ramsay to make you dinner, tell him what you want to eat and get the hell out of his kitchen. I promise you, what he cooks up will be an order of magnitude better than what your dumbass could do.
and this is a great illustration of, I think, the ultimate foundation of what good relationships and good agency relationships are built on, and that is trust. You have to trust that they know what they're doing, are going to do it, and are going to communicate when they need things, and you can provide those things to them. Like, if you don't trust them to not micromanage them, you shouldn't be hiring them in the first place. And if you don't trust any agencies, that's a you problem,
Then you're the problem.
right? Like, our best relationships are the ones where We check in reasonably infrequently. It's like, oh, hey, this is going really well, whatever. And they can see the numbers. And then if something's not going well, we hop on a little call. It's 10, 15 minutes. But otherwise, they're like, look, money printer go burr. And, and that's it.
Correct.
And
But you want that.
they don't interfere at all.
Right, but that's partnership where they're giving you ownership, they're giving you the tools to succeed. And we have most of our client relationships are exactly like that. And it's fantastic because the client trusts us to do our job and we trust the client to allow us to do that job. And everybody gets together and they work collaboratively towards solutions.
And it frees you, the brand, up to focus on the things that only you can do.
Correct. It's a beautiful thing when it works. So
It's
if you're a
magical.
brand listening to this, you just heard a whole bunch of horror stories. So now you know what not to do.
Yes.
But then there's the other flip side of this, right? We talked about bad agencies. And we are in the agency business. So I think we both probably know every dirty secret in this book. So this section of the podcast is for you, brands. If you are hiring an agency, here are the red flags. Here are the tips that nobody tells you. None of the LinkedIn thought boys are going to put these out, but these are the things to look for.
And there's a lot of them.
Yeah. So do I get to start?
Do you want to start?
Sure. Let's do this. All right. So thing number one, the biggest current pain point in my life. At no point in time should your agency own your assets. If they say that we own your website, we own your ad accounts, we own your creative, we have rights to your SEO, yes, that's a real thing. We've had a client whose agency stripped out all of the SEO they did on the website, all of the content, they took it down, all of the title tags, all of the H1s, all of it. They ripped it all down when they got fired. If an agency is saying that they own anything that they have done for you after you have paid them for it, run. Just leave.
Absolutely
that is immediate DQ.
Under absolutely no circumstances is that ever okay. Although I will say the caveat of this is actually something where green flag for a good agency, if you see it in the contract, the caveat is you get it when you pay for it, right?
Correct.
So
that's why I put that in there.
We
Once
have a
you've
clause
paid,
in our contract where it's
so do we.
We own the work product until we pay for it, and then all rights are transferred to the client on payment.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I think it's a pretty fair rule, right? Like you're hiring an expert, pay them for their work and it's yours. It's a pretty simple, but the number of brands that I see getting duped by this it's on the rise. We've had 4 this year with variants of this. That's
own
insane.
The ad accounts, own the fucking
They own the ad accounts. They own the Google My Business profile. They own the YouTube channel. They take the content off of your website. Come on. So if you're an agency and you do this, you do not deserve to remain in business.
It's the scummiest shit that you can possibly do, and businesses do fall prey to it, but it's a non-negotiable. It's absolutely non-negotiable. Like, I don't care who's running the agency. Like, it's non-negotiable. They do not own anything, they being the agency. And I'll be honest, like, we run into situations sometimes where clients will be like, oh, well, just set that up for us. And I was like, no, you have to own it. This is your, like, I'm not setting up this Google Ads account for you. Like, you have to do it because we don't own any of your shit. So,
right. Like, we are happy to get on screen shares with you and walk you through the process. We are happy to manage it, but I do not want to own client assets.
I mean, I don't even want that liability.
No. And it's just a nightmare.
And it's a sign that the agency is sketchy.
Correct. All right. That was mine. Collin, I'm sure you got some.
Another red flag. Call this one number 2. We'll test it. We'll test whatever. We'll test everything. I think testing is important, but agencies should have some certainty in certain things, right? They should know, okay, brand search should be on a manual CPC bid in 99% of cases, right? That's not something that we need to run a fucking test for. They should not be testing everything that you suggest, right? Like, they should have a plan for what does need to be tested, what doesn't need to be tested, and a rejection of things that don't make sense to be tested, right? Like, you're running an agency. You should have had some successful tests, right? You should have a baseline playbook for certain things that you've tested 20 times and the result has come out the same all 20 times. And so you're like, great, we are confident that this is
Mm-hmm.
what happens in this scenario. So we don't need to test it again because we've already tested it 20 times. So here's our things that we're confident we can implement and are going to drive a certain potential range of results based on all of the times that we've tested them. And if the commentary is, oh, we have to test everything or everything gets tested before we launch anything, that's a great way to stall and make sure that nothing gets done. And then when you come and
Right.
complain, they're like, well, we're testing, right? Testing takes time. And that's
It doesn't.
true. But not everything needs to be tested.
That's correct. Okay. The one that irks me the most, I think, is the bait and switch.
Love that one.
And if you are interviewing agencies, what you often get is you get a senior level person, a me, a Collin, a Phil, right, on that call, and they're the ones that are talking to you. They sell you, and then once you sign, that turns into a 22-year-old who has no idea what the hell they're doing. And if you work with a lot of large agencies, this is pretty much the playbook.
Yes.
And it is not exclusively large agencies. There are plenty of small shops that do the same thing. This is terrible. And if you are hiring an agency, you should always ask to meet the team that you will actually be working with before you sign a contract. Number one, it's actually good for the agency because they can see if you're going to be a fit. Because if you and the account lead, well, that's a problem. And guess what? We can know that before the contract gets signed and we can adjust, right? It's transparency. Number two, you can actually understand who you'll be working with on a day-to-day basis, which is great because you have that familiarity and that immediately starts to build the trust. And number three, most importantly, the person that's running your account should be somebody who brings the value that you are expecting from the agency. Because fundamentally, you are hiring the agency for their skills, knowledge, expertise, and processes. If the person who is running your account doesn't have that knowledge, the expertise, or the ability to execute those processes, you're not going to be getting the value you expect, and the engagement's going to go sideways.
Yeah. Another red flag, and this is what you get right on the discovery call, and the amount of times where I think brands could just disqualify an agency on the discovery call is massive. And a discovery call from an agency, and I'm speaking in the area that I know, right? Performance marketing should feel like a colonoscopy. They should be asking detailed, in-depth questions on your financials. What's your AOV? What's your repeat purchase rate? What's the lead time for getting more product from your manufacturer? Like, they need to be understanding the math behind your business because you cannot run ads if you don't know the overall math and like financials
Correct.
of a business, because you need to be able to work within those financials. You need to be able to go in an account and be like, oh, that's why this isn't working, or this is what we can project will result from the, changes that we make in creative. We get a better CTR, right? How does that impact the overall performance of
Right.
the business? Like, you cannot know, and unless you get all of this information. And so if you're on a discovery call and it's just like wishy-washy, like good time vibes, like no questions about numbers, like, it should feel invasive. A discovery call with a good agency should really feel invasive because
Right.
they need to know what those numbers are to have any ability to put together a proposal that is going to reflect a possible outcome for you as a brand. And if they don't, they have no fucking idea. And the thing is, they don't care because they're not trying to hold themselves to the numbers that they're throwing at you. They're just,
Correct.
confetti.
And that goes to the other one that drives me insane is when And this is a dual problem. This is a brand and agency problem. This is the start right away problem. The onboarding process. The easiest thing you can ask an agency as you're doing this is, what is the onboarding process for a new client? What things do you do? And
And
if
they
they
should
can,
know.
they should have this down pat. Like for us, there are generally three pieces of this. Number one is an audit. We go through your accounts. And candidly, part of this is insurance. We don't charge you for it, but we will look through your accounts because I want to know that what you're telling me on the call and what is in your ad account align. Number two is an actual budget model. We go through and forecast and project the performance of your account based on the data that we found, and we provide a range of outcomes and the drivers of each of those outcomes. Number three is a go forward strategy. What are the priority tests to conduct? What is the creative? What are the immediate action items that must be fixed, et cetera, right? We want to have a playbook to get started and expected hypotheses for each of those actions. And that's how we begin every engagement. And if you're not willing to go through that process, then with all due respect, we're probably not a fit because you have an expectation that is not a fit for us. And if you are talking to an agency that's like, I'm just going to get in there tomorrow and get cranking on your ads, that's a recipe for ready, fire, aim.
Make ads on what plan? And it's funny, or maybe totally makes sense, is that is exactly our process. Although we call it our project roadmap for the forward-looking
Roadmap
work.
sounds so nice. Get on Highway 1 to profitability with Collin.
That's right. No, and I think you make a point that is so important that I think it's a step beyond just asking about numbers, and that is modeling a range of outcomes. Because with any sort of forecasting, there is a great deal of uncertainty, right? And there is a range of like, if I could see the future, I'd be a lot fucking richer than I am right now. But you can model out a range of outcomes that fall within a certain degree of certainty, and you can be like, okay, well, this is the, low performance outcome, like this is the 20th percentile outcome, this is the 90th percentile outcome, and there should be a range of what they think performance could potentially be based on what they're doing. Because I can't tell you, oh, that's going to generate, that's going to increase your marketing efficiency ratio by 50%. But I could say it could be 20 to 60%, right? Because of all of this data.
Yes. And the other part that most brands just candidly do not internalize, and most agencies are woefully, blissfully unaware of, is the role that luck plays. And I know it's unpopular for performance marketers to talk about luck, but here's the reality. There's a part of this that's luck. You can increase your surface area for luck by having a good process and an exceptional team and a viable plan and all of these other things, which you do. But fundamentally, I have clients that were meticulous, beautiful ad accounts. And you know what? From April 2nd to April 15th, their performance sucked. And you know why? Because the guy who's president decided to declare economic war on the world and sent the stock market down 20-something%. Turns out people don't want to buy expensive stuff when they think the global economy is cratering.
We're not immune to macro trends, right? And you can, do better, and that is the goal, right? So like
100% the goal.
The market's down 30% and you're down 10%, that's a W, right?
Correct.
Like you want to outperform, but you're also, not going to be completely immune to.
And there's also just candidly micro trends, like, and the lower the volume of activity, the greater the impact on luck. So if you are a business that is an e-commerce business and you do 10,000 transactions a month, you're going to get some variability, plus or minus 5% in transaction volume. If you are a service business that lives on 50 leads a month, depending on how the month falls, you could be plus or minus 20%, and it is not the marketing's fault, in-house or agency. It is just the way the calendar crumbles.
Variance is a lot bigger when you have smaller numbers.
Yes, that is how that works. So by building an actual forecast with a range of outcomes, you can then feel comfortable that your performance is in a normal range. And the last piece is I there's two ways you can look at forecasts. And I think this is a question for if you want to ask an agency an actually insightful question that tells you a lot about them, this is the question to ask. How do you view forecasts? Do you view a forecast as an exercise in projecting the actual outcome, or do you view it as an exercise in operational efficiency and organizational accountability? Because I did my financial modeling for 5 years. I can make a forecast that is God fucking amazing. I can overfit a forecast like you would not believe. But where the great agencies make their money is in creating forecasts that are mechanisms for operational efficiency. It's an exercise in operational efficiency and accountability, because that forecast will hold you accountable to each of those numbers. And you can actually have forward-looking conversations with that client and say, hey, conversion rate was down 75 basis points versus projection. Okay, now we can form a theory for it. We have a playbook we can go to as an agency because we've been here before. We know what we're doing. Here's what we're going to try. Here's why we're going to do it. And here's the expected result. But if you just try to overfit the forecast, you're never going to spot it because you tried to make it about being right instead of understanding where you're wrong.
And understanding where you're wrong is really the most important part of an agency relationship. And it's one of the reasons why I think looking backwards, I hate like when you're just looking back at old numbers, because you're like, okay, well, that's already been cooked. Like the things that need to be focused on are what are we doing going forward to change the performance in the future to outperform the forecast, hit the forecast, like just it has to be forward looking.
Yes. Like I have no interest in, I think there's a tricky balance to do here. Because number one, and this gets to my other fun agency question if you want to ask them, but you want to teeter a balance between accountability for past outcomes tempered with a focus on go forward. Because you're right, the cake is baked. Nothing I do today is going to fix May's numbers, but I can damn sure make sure June doesn't suck. So you want an agency that takes accountability, but to your point is forward.
Yeah. If your conversations are always about, oh, what happened last week? What happened last month? And you're spending all your time talking about that instead of how can we make changes to improve on what happened last month in the future, right? It's like, this is what it was. Here's what we're doing to make results improve. Here's what we're doing to make things grow. Like that is how the conversation needs to be framed.
I agree completely with that. And that brings me to my next question. If you want to make an agency uncomfortable, ask them about a client engagement that did not go well and ask them why.
Love this question. And I've only ever gotten it once. And it's a great fucking question.
It's a great question. Because what you want to listen for here is not just if the agency immediately blames the client or the macro, that's a red flag. What you want in an answer is an answer that tempers. So either we made a mistake here that was compounded by this, etc. Or, this happened, we didn't do this, or we should have done this. We learned, right? You want an agency that takes a modicum of accountability. Don't expect them to be like, yeah, we were absolutely horrible. We completely fucked up. They're never going to say that. But you want an agency that is not reflexively blaming the client. You want an agency that is willing to look at themselves and say, you know what? Yeah, we could have been a little better here. Or, we didn't anticipate this, or, we hadn't properly, our forecast didn't account for variability in inventory. They didn't have anything to sell, and we spent a bunch of money, and we had nothing to sell. That's kind of a problem.
Yeah.
Right? Just some little smidge of accountability.
We were bad with our communication, something.
It doesn't have to be a big thing, but if they're unwilling to do just a little bit of accountability on a call, that means they're going to have no accountability with you. Right. So the other one that I have is contracts. If your agency has a year-long lock-in contract, run. Just stop. Do not pass go. Do not collect $100. Just no.
Yeah, a year is insane.
I think 120 days on the out is probably the most, and that should be for a really big engagement. 30 days on the low end, probably fine. If it is less than that, I start to get worried.
And related, anyone who's like month to month from the start, not a good sign. Like the simple truth is that a good relationship like gets back to the onboarding the onboarding process can take 3 weeks to a month, right? Like doing all this research, building all these plans out. Yes, there can be things that are going to happen in the first month, and they should, right? Actions should be taken, but an agency that is good is not going to agree to a 1 month contract because they're not going to make any money in the first month, right? They're over investing resources in the initial month of the engagement to get things rolling. And they're not going to promise massive changes in month one outside of potentially like really fucked up things that are in your account
Right,
and are
stopping
like
the
easy
bleeding.
wins. Turn off view through conversions, right? Like it's the shit like
Eliminate
that.
eliminate the triple counted form submission.
Right. Exactly.
Those are things, but yes, I agree with you. You want an agency is making an investment in you, the client. That needs to be reciprocated in some way, or the entire thing is not set up for long-term success.
Here's another one, and it's not a red flag, but it is, I think, an important part of vetting an agency. And that is, and I talk about this a little bit, case studies are bullshit. I can make a great sounding case study from the worst failure of an engagement. It's not that hard. You can torture numbers and make them sing. And so case studies don't fucking matter, right? If you want to get a good read on an agency, ask to speak to a current client who's happy, because that's what you're going to get, and see if they'll let you talk to, and to Sam's point, talk to a client where the engagement ended and wasn't totally successful. And some of them will be willing to do that. Like, I'll happily put you in touch with a client where it didn't work out the way we planned. We have some of those. It happens, right? Like, sometimes
Correct.
we just, we have a projection, we have a plan. Things did not go exactly according to plan. And that fucking happens, right? Like, no one bats 1,000. But, if an agency's just sitting there, like, look at our case studies, everything's about case studies. Like, if you get lured in by case studies, you're going to have a bad time.
I have a related one for this, and that's because we do a lot of work in a couple niche industries, and it's something that I wish more brands would be aware of. And that is, I'm going to pick on an industry, or I'm just going to do it because I just don't care. And they already all hate me anyway, so
Fuck them.
right, we do a lot of senior work in senior living. And I think senior living is an absolutely awesome industry. It is needed, it is absolutely growing, and it is an absolutely trying to evolve industry. But there are a handful of agencies that market themselves as senior living agencies, and these are the most incestuous organizations on the planet. They have not had a new idea since Bill Clinton was president.
Bill who?
Yeah, Mr. Pizza Delivery himself. But that's not to say those agencies don't have some good people in them. They probably do. I just haven't found them yet. But here's the thing. Every person in senior living, every CMO has come out of some of these agencies, or they've worked with them before, and there's only a few that have this experience. So it turns into this circular logic where it's, oh, well, we need an agency that understands our industry. So we go back to the only 5 that actually have a veritable smorgasbord of case studies about these senior living brands. So you have this just rotating door. It's like K Street, but worse. All set up by the fact that the agency is just touting their expertise in this industry, and the brand is over-indexing on the value of that expertise, which candidly is nil.
That is a great point, and I think it's a broader point, which is that industries are, from a marketing standpoint, not that different, right? Like you can sell automotive parts and you can sell apparel. They're both high SKU catalog businesses. Like they're very, very, very similar overall,
Yes.
right? Like there's very little difference between the two of them from a structural marketing standpoint. And if you're a great marketer who has experience in those types of businesses, it doesn't matter if you are something else entirely. It's really not that fucking different. Your industry is not that special.
Correct.
It's not.
And I tend to think, and my view tends to be that most industry marketers are overly conservative in their approach to innovation and evolution.
Yeah.
They do what they do because that's what worked. It's like the higher ed curse. Here's the thing, if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got, or less.
Yep.
If you want something more than average, if you sit and say, I want to be better than my competition, I don't merely want to tread water, then you need an agency that's going to look at the problem a little differently and maybe come up with some different solutions and take some different risks than these agencies that just do this industry do. The fact that you work in that industry with people that do all that is a blessing because they all do the same thing. You know what the playbook is. All you have to do is beat the playbook.
And that is you bring up a good point, and I do want to make sure that we get to how to not push away good agencies, because there are lots of brands who hopefully are listening to this who maybe haven't had good success with agencies, and we're going to help them have success with agencies. But the willingness to accept failure on experimentation, right? Like if you don't give the agency the opportunity to have experiments that fail and potentially fail spectacularly, right? You are not going to get incredible results because the upside is commensurate with the downside, right? If you change the color on a button, like minimal upside, minimal downside. If you try something completely new, there's a possibility it just lights all the fucking money on fire. And that's it.
Yes.
But like that's the only way you're going to get massive, massive improvement, step function results.
Yes. Yeah.
So
We talk about this all the time, right? This is 10% or 10x. If you want 10%, if you want to hobble along with 10%, amazing. But if you need to 10x your business, that means doing things that are an order of magnitude or 2 orders of magnitude more dangerous.
got to risk it for the biscuit.
That's correct. And I think this goes back to the agency culture too, because what you want is an agency, at least I think, this is my opinion, but you know what? I'm probably right because I'm usually, I think I'm right most of the time. Other people would disagree, but I got a
I agree.
podcast
That's why we're
and
having
they
this
don't.
fucking podcast. We say the same fucking
I
thing.
know, right? But the things that I tell every person on our team, number one, I will support you no matter what. If you make a mistake, just don't make the same mistake twice. Life is too long and too interesting to be that boring. And number two, it is okay to take big swings. It is not okay to hit singles all day and think you're a Hall of Famer.
Pete Rose, sit down.
Fuck you, Pete Rose. Don't bet on baseball. But seriously, you're not hiring an agency to hit singles. You are hiring an agency to take your business to the next level, to unlock the next level of growth. You want an agency that's going to bring big ideas to you. You want an agency that's going to look at your entire funnel and say, you know what, that doesn't make sense, or there's a better way. And that's a big change. But if you create an environment, either as an agency or as a brand, where big ideas are shut down or where risk is shunned, you will get mediocrity. That's how this works.
Average results from average risks.
Pretty much how it goes.
Yep.
All right, before we go to the other part of this, let's play the fun game that pisses everybody off. How should you compensate your agency?
Percentage, there has to be some percentage. So and this gets back to you don't want to squeeze your agency, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a growing brand, and I would imagine most of the people listening to this, they're trying to scale, they're trying to grow. Work scales as spend scales, right? An account that spends $100,000 a month is not the same amount of work that spends $1 million a month. It's just not.
That's generally true.
And you cannot pay your agency the same amount at 100,000 as you do at 1 million. There has to be some connection with work that's required and retainer that the agency gets, because we get back to the point, right? An agency is not going to lose money. And so if the work is scaling up because
Spend is scaling up.
project is scaling up and their retainer is not scaling up, that margin is shrinking. And what they're going to do is they're going to do less work or put junior people on it, right? There needs to be some connection with the revenue, the spend, and how much the agency is making. I think a tapered percentage of spend model is the best because, again, work does not scale linearly with ad spend, but it does scale with it. So, if it's 10% to like $250,000, and then it's 5% to $500,000, and then it's 2.5% from like from like $500,000 to 750, and then 1.5% from 750 to 1 million, whatever. There should be some sort of de-escalation, in my opinion, but it should be
I agree with that.
scaling up, right?
Yeah, and
flat fees don't fucking work.
And to clarify, what you're talking about here is essentially a progressive billing system. So you're paying 10% on the first 100,000 plus 5% on the next 400,000
Exactly.
plus 2.5% on the next 250, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
Yeah. That is one model that I tend to like. The other one, I mean, we tend to bill on a hourly retainer basis, so it's up to us to quote the scope. Candidly, I like it because it's pretty straightforward. Like once you have enough data, you can pretty much tell, all right, I need this much time, and I can essentially manage my staff costs and make sure, to your point, we're profitable. I think those tend to be the better models. Where I think every industry has over-indexed in trying to solve like what I'll call the agency compensation triangle, and no one solved it yet, which is you can have two of the following three. You can have simplicity. You can have something that provides perfect incentives or alignment between the brand and the agency. And you can have something that provides financial stability. But you cannot have all three at any given time.
I think
you
that's
can
accurate.
get close, but I feel like you have to try to find a point that's in the middle of those three.
And this ultimately gets back to the trust conversation, right? It has to escalate. And if you're doing flat fee, and I'm going to talk about flat fee for a little minute right here. There are two ways that flat fee works. It is a very defined scope, and that is it, right? Where like we do 10 static ads a month, and it is a static deliverable that you get. Perfect. And the workload is static. Flat fee, great for that. Outside of that, right? Like flat fee, either you're getting overcharged at the start, which is most likely what's happening because the agency is planning, okay, well, it's going to scale this much, so I need to bake in extra margin now because it's going to scale up and I will have less margin later. Or they just start cutting and underservicing. Or the last option is, and this happens all the time, like the agency is being compensated outside of the fee structure in order to have that sort of fee structure. And that happens all the time, right? Like
that's a Holdco special right there.
It's like fucking all the people shilling sass on Twitter, right? Like, yeah, they probably use it. They're probably not paying for it.
Yeah.
And they're paying for it by shilling it on Twitter to you guys.
Yeah. No, you are not wrong at all. I mean, I think the most nefarious version of what you just said, I saw from a very large, very, very well-known Holdco. And it was the following. The fee was artificially low, but they were selling pre-purchased inventory from the Holdco to the brand. So this holdco had purchased $10 million in inventory from CBS and whatever at a what I'm assuming is a very substantial discount. They marked it up almost 100% and then required clients to buy a percentage of that spend.
That's insane.
The client was like, "Oh, I'm getting a great deal on this media." I'm like, "No, you're not. No, you're not. No, 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 no." Because they have made margin on this literally 3 times. They made margin when they purchased it from the vendor. The holdco sold it to you, the agency that you've contracted with. They made a margin on that transaction. Then the agency marked it up yet again when they sold it to you.
Hell of a business model.
God bless America. But I mean, I will go this far. Like, I had a client, and if she's listening, you are the best. We had helped them with a marketing tech migration to a platform that shall not be named, but it has a yellow or an orange logo that looks kind of weird. Right? Great platform. And the way we structured this is we are a partner with HubSpot. So actually, fuck that, HubSpot, right?
Sponsored by HubSpot.
Yeah, really? Give me an unbound speaking slot. That'd be great. Right? I literally called this client because the HubSpot rep called me and they were like, "Hey, so since this client of yours signed up, we're crediting your partner account for that, and we're going to give you whatever referral commission." Literally called the client and I was like, "Hey, I want to let you know that I didn't know this was coming, but we're getting a referral commission, so we're going to actually deduct that off of your invoice." Just because I don't ever want you to think that I recommended this platform because I was getting a commission for it, because I didn't even know I was getting the commission. So really, it's just found money.
We do the same thing. And in fact, like we use it as a tool to like get the tool for clients for less money.
Yes. Yeah. That's what we do with Klaviyo. I'm just like, I don't want the discount. I don't want the referral. Literally just deduct. Like, help our clients get a better deal. Like, instead of giving them 10% off, give them 2 months free. Like, because at the end of the day, we're in this business to help them win. So, me being able to say, "Hey, yeah, we got you 2 months free on Klaviyo or whatever," that's a big win to them. That gives us more time to prove value because they're not immediately getting a SaaS invoice.
Yeah. So we spent a lot of time talking about red flags, particularly from the agency side, the relationship. Now, lots of brands listening who maybe have not had good agency experiences in the past, and we want to fix that. So let's talk about how you cannot, as a brand, push away and scare away good agencies, both in the vetting process, but also as a client.
I think the first is to treat them as a partner, right? The agency is an extension of your team. At least it should be.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of relationships where it gets finger pointy. And the reality is that you're both on the same team. And the enemy is everybody else. Mm-hmm. And if you can adopt that mindset, like, it's me, it's my marketing team, it's my agency, and it's us against everybody else, and we're all working together to do that, I think that's the healthiest mindset you can have. But it's quite uncommon.
Yeah. No, those are the best relationships. I'd add to that, which is similar but also very important, is you need to own your half of the engagement, right? The success and the failure of an engagement is not purely on the agency. There's work that you have to do and that the agency can reasonably request of you that you need to deliver on, right? Like, yes. If you are working with a media buying agency and they're like, "Look, they're not converting very well. We need better landing pages for this traffic that we're sending." You can't be like, "Oh, it's because your ads suck."
No, it's because your landing page sucks.
Yes, it's like, "Look, great, we'll build better landing pages." Or they're like,
or
"Look,
help us do it." Or
this
tell us
offer's
who.
not working. Give us a new offer that we can test. Right? The agency cannot be more invested in your overall success than you are. You also have to work with them in order to get results.
The next one, I would say, it is unpopular, but it is true. When you talk to your agency, you should tell them we have this budget, which is core. We have this budget that is for testing, and we have this budget for moonshots. And what we are going to do is we are going to hold the core accountable for the results that we need. We are going to hold the tests responsible for a fraction of that. And we do not hold the moonshots responsible for shit. Because what that does is it allows the moonshots to be as risk on as possible. It makes the tests meet a standard, so you are not testing everything, and it makes the core accountable to actually doing what they said they would do in their forecast.
I think that's great. And that takes the splitting experiment and core one step further, because those home run experiments are critical to, the massive growth that people want.
Yeah. I mean, we've had clients where, we had one where the absolutely crazy thing we did was we literally mined their customer service database and found the 20 most common questions that their CSMs were getting asked. And we turned them all into YouTube videos and then ran YouTube ads to their existing customers with all of the tips. Absolutely insane.
I bet it worked great.
Reduced call volume by 40%.
That's fantastic.
Which, that sounds terrible. That sounds like weird, but it's like, do you know how much money goes into a call center?
A shilla.
It's a real expensive thing. Like, cutting that down 40% meant like wait times went from 20 minutes to 4, meant customer satisfaction went way up.
And those YouTube ads were pennies on the dollar for the call center cost.
100%. But there's no reasonable person. If you are holding that entire media budget accountable to performance, you're never going to try that, because
it's going to look bad, and
it's
then
going
the
to look like
agency's
shit.
going to get fucking roasted for doing a bad job, so they're not going to try.
When in reality, like, the CFO literally in the meeting when we told them this, the CFO was like, that is the best money I have spent all year.
But it was speculative. And
it was
you
100%.
didn't know it was the best money he spent all year until it had already happened.
No, but I mean, really, who runs ads about how to fix problems with our platform?
Right. I mean, nobody, but
But it worked.
That's where you get alpha.
Correct. So you have to set up incentives for your agency to win.
Let's talk about discovery call and like pre-hiring an agency, because I think this happens a lot too. And I know, again, I have discovery calls all the time, and I'm sure you're going to have stuff for this point in the engagement or pre-engagement. You have to know your numbers. Your numbers are absolutely critical. Gets back to the whole, if the agency's not asking your numbers, like, they're a bad agency. But if an agency is asking you for all of these numbers, and you're like, I have no idea what our AOV, what's AOV, like, what's your retention, like, you need to be able to answer those numbers and be comfortable answering those numbers. Like, what's your top line revenue? Like, what's your margin on average on your orders, right? Like, all of those numbers are mission critical for an agency.
Yes.
And you have to know them, and you have to be willing to share them on the discovery call. Because
also,
a good agency is going to expect those.
Candidly, if the other pet peeve I have, let me pet peeve on this. And I understand the rationale, if you are going to require the agency to sign an NDA in order to disclose those numbers, send me the NDA before the goddamn call.
Yes.
I candidly do not care about copying your business. I am not going to disclose your numbers to other people. It is not in my best interest. It candidly is just not a thing I'm ever going to do. But if you are so worried, number one,
get over yourself.
Get over yourself. Number two, have the decency to not waste our time. Send the NDA in advance and just say, hey, blame it on your lawyer, because that's what everybody blames it on. Our lawyer requires. Great. Send me a standard NDA and I will sign it. I don't care, because I have no intention of ever breaking it. So just don't be that person. And if you are a lead generation shop, or you are a lead generation brand, right? While you may not know like inventory and AOV, you should know what is your lead to MQL rate, what is your MQL to SQL, what is your SQL to close, what is your average deal size based on ICP and non-ICP. You should know those numbers cold. And if you don't know those numbers, then start by telling the agency, This is the goal I need to get to. And here's what I need to figure out. And I don't know where to get these numbers. And they can help you.
Which leads me into another point. Great segue. Realistic about your expectations. You do not want the agency sitting on the other side to have in their notes at the end of the discovery call, and I want a fucking pony, right? You need to be clear-eyed about where you are now. Don't lie, because that happens too. People are like, oh, we spend $250,000 a month, and you're like, nope, you spent 50,000 last month. Like, don't lie, and be very realistic about where you are, because we're gonna see when we get access to your account anyway, right? Like, we're gonna know that you are fucking lying to us.
Like, I don't care. Just tell me.
And be realistic about where you need to get and timeline on getting there, right? If you're a $10 million a year brand and you want to double in a year, like, that is a very aggressive goal. It's possible, right? But it's aggressive. And so you're like, okay, well, let's maybe dial it back a little bit. And you're like, this is what I want to do in the next 3 months. We want to grow by 20%, like, our, monthly rate, 20% in 3 months, and have like a realistic, idea of how that can happen, right? You're rolling it, and also don't add extraneous shit, right? Like, if you're working with a growth marketing team, don't be like, hey, we need to improve our retention. It's like, great, but that's not on me, right? Like, that can't be part of the expectation. So talk to other people who have grown, right? Like,
yes.
And be, if anything, conservative, right? Because if you are too aggressive, the honest agencies, right, are going to be like, oh, we can't do that. We don't think that's realistic. And we're going to take ourselves out of the running, because I don't want an engagement where they're unhappy because we're not meeting their expectations. And I also don't want to spend tons of my time trying to adjust your expectations down because they're so unrealistic. I'll just be like, you know what? Not for me. Best of luck.
Right.
Have fun.
And to be very clear, that is not you backing away from a challenge. There is a difference between saying, and this is the analogy I use on calls. I was like, there's two ways you can set expectations, right? Expectation number one is what I call the Jerry Jones way, which is we're going to win a championship. Jerry Jones hasn't won fucking shit in 30 something years. There is way number two, which I'll call the Patriots way, which if you listen to Bill Belichick on podcast, he says it. He's like, our expectation was to make the playoffs. And our expectation once we got into the playoffs was that we would be able to be competitive at any game we played. And I knew that because I was in the playoffs and I was competitive with every game that I played and I had Tom Brady on the sidelines, that more often than not, I was going to be able to win. But those are two really different expectations if you think about it. One is saying it's either Super Bowl or bust. That is your 100% year over year growth. 1 in 32 is going to hit that. Realistically, statistically, if you're an e-commerce brand, roughly 1 in 30 brands will do that in a given year. You're trying to win a Super Bowl. That is your expectation. Option number two is your model, which is, hey, I want to grow 20% in the first 3 months. I want to grow another 20% over the next 6, and I want to grow another 10% over the next 6 after that. And that all averages out to somewhere around 38% growth over the year, because growth compounds. Like, that's cool. That's doable. That gets you into the playoffs. And if you get into the playoffs, you can maybe double. Maybe you have a killer offer on Black Friday and you smash it out of the park. Yep. Maybe you unlock a new audience and you are able to scale that audience up and you knock it out of the park. Amazing. But you're setting yourself and you're setting your agency up for a challenge they can hit with upside to go further.
And if you're expecting the Super Bowl, Bill Belichick is not going to be coaching your team. It's going to be fucking Matt Eberflus or somebody like that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the reality. That's the reality. And I think from an athlete's perspective, and if you think about it from any truly competitive person, nobody that's really competitive ever wants to be in this position where if you do the greatest thing in your space, you have merely met expectation, because there's no upside left.
It's miserable too.
It's fucking miserable. Like, I'm not saying that we don't look for a challenge, because I love a challenge. I think it's fun as hell. But what I don't want is to take on a brutal challenge, and when we win, you're like, okay, great, you did what you should have done.
Or better yet, you did an incredible job, and they're like, oh, why did it suck?
Yeah, like, no, it's a losing proposition. You've taken all there is no upside left. And just like we talk about not squeezing every drop of blood out of the stone on compensation, you can't squeeze every drop of blood out of expectation either.
So I think this is another point that needs to be said. There are not that many great agencies because there are not that many great marketers. I know because I fucking hire those marketers. And great agencies can be selective in their clients. We do not need to take shitty clients. Sometimes we fuck up and we do take a shitty client, but we are only looking for brands that are going to be good to work with, where we can hit success targets, and it is a lovely, pleasant experience, right? We're not going to take on shitters, right? No shitters. I literally have a post-it note that says no shitters, right? And you do not want to get filtered into the shitter bucket with the good agencies. And that's another thing. We fucking talk too, by the way. So you need to be a brand that good agencies want to work with. And if you are, then they will. And you're going to get much better results. And it just, otherwise, you're going to get the people who churn and burn, and it's going to be shitty.
I mean, and the biggest thing, and I tell our team this too, and every person on our team who is listening to this podcast has probably been through this once or twice. We have fired clients because at the end of the day, my priority order looks like my team and then everything else.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, the biggest asset that we have as a business is the great people that we've hired. It's our
your
talent.
Entire asset. You are in the business of having great people and
if you're
selling
going to,
their time to other people.
100%. I mean, I would say the only portion I push back on that is the processes and the knowledge and the accumulated insights. That stuff is also the institutional knowledge and the process. That's an asset. But fundamentally, yeah. So yes, I am protective of our team. And if you are in the shitter pile, it's not a fit. Like, you're going to get the agency you deserve. And I think that's the point that most brands miss. Brands get the agencies they deserve.
Yes.
So if you get shitty agencies time after time, that's the agency you deserve.
Be a better brand. Be a better partner.
Correct.
Right? This is a relationship. Be a better partner, you'll get a better partner.
And candidly, if you're an agency owner listening to this and you're like, well, all I have is shit clients, you get the clients you deserve. If you are a shit agency, if you do shit work, if you treat your clients like shit, if you are not the kind of agency that is actually helping clients deliver and gives a damn about your clients, then you will probably get shit clients.
Absolutely.
That's how this shit works. You know, it's the same way as in dating, right? They say you marry the person you deserve. All right. Thank you for tuning in to this week's edition of Marketing Uncensored. Hope you found some of this insightful, valuable, or just entertaining. If any of those things are true, and even if they're not, like, follow, subscribe, do the things you are supposed to do. Do not be a bad marketer. Thanks for bearing with us. If you do have questions or comments, drop them in or email us hello@marketinguncensored.com. Don't judge us. We have a podcast.